Hello and welcome back. Let's continue with these interesting points and questions and such. A patient that has been on medication for years should ask, when is it going to work? When will it cure me? When will it cure me? They've been taking it for years. Is there a time limit on this, or you have to carry on taking it? It's not actually fixing the problem. Why not? Adverse reactions to prescribed medication cost us, the taxpayer, £466 million each and every year. 750,000 people are affected, and they fill 32 entire hospitals. So doctors give medication to patients and they have adverse reactions, and it costs us, the taxpayer, £500 million a year and fills 32 of our hospitals. That's terrible. Side effects. Government agencies responsible for regulating drugs admitted that they do not look at the data on antidepressants such as Prozac. Instead, they rely heavily on information from drug company trials. Drug companies have no legal obligation to reveal any negative findings of such trials. This was taken from the Sunday Express on 12th of December 2004, as were many of these quotes and this information, not just newspapers but other reliable sources. And it's all in my book. If you wish to read it. There's lots of stuff here that isn't, but it's all supportive. The sale of drugs to the NHS earns drug companies £10 billion a year. £10 billion a year. That's the money. The biggest drug companies, the two biggest, Pfizer's and GlaxoSmithKline, both have a turnover of around £30 billion a year. That's each. Interesting, a lot of money in drugs. The doctors' journals, The Lancet and the British Medical Journal, both rely heavily on drug company advertising. Remember this was in the foreword. Dr. Desmond Spence mentioned it. They rely heavily on drug company advertising revenue. So can they be considered impartial when it comes to reporting on new medication? Doctors are guided by and heavily dependent upon such reports when they prescribe new medicines. Can this be in our best interest? Seroxat, a widely prescribed antidepressant, is and was unlicensed for use by teenagers. This drug had been prescribed to thousands of teenagers, and one of its many bad side effects was suicidal tendencies. Why don't they just have a food intolerance test done and fix their brain? The kids won't be depressed or anything else. Jean-Pierre Garnier, chief executive of GlaxoSmithKline, the UK's largest drug company, was offered £22 million if he agreed to be sacked. It's gone back a couple of years now. As far as I know, he's still there, so he didn't take the money. Must be a lot of money to be made. Just £22 million for being sacked. Interesting. Governments get millions, if not billions of pounds a year from taxes on drugs. In a great many cases, the side effects of these drugs are reported to cause other health problems that might just knock years off our lives. That's great news from a government's point of view, because then they don't have to pay us a pension. It's exactly the same scenario with the sale of and use of cigarettes. I imagine most governments would like you to smoke because they're making lots of taxes, and these cigarettes knock years off your life, so they haven't got to pay your pension. Interesting stuff, no? 12 senior drug company executives were arrested on charges of price fixing and defrauding the NHS of £100 million. Two of the companies involved were Generics UK and Rand Baxby. This was in the Times on the 12th of September 2005. What, if anything, has come of this case? Or is it just another cover-up? I've never heard any more about it. Most NHS hospitals and universities are heavily dependent on research and other funding from drug companies. Can this be right that private companies can have such a hold over our public institutions? If technology is used at health scan were to be introduced into the NHS, then not only would millions of people become healthy without drugs, not that they work anyway, but it would save us, the taxpayer, billions of pounds each and every year. This money could then be better spent on education and law and order. It could also buy and run many more emergency helicopters for our ambulance service, instead of them having to depend on charity to run the two that are in operation today. So many things need sorting out here. It's untrue. People just need to hear this, you know. The more people that can stand up and be counted and get on and get this right, the better for all of us in the future, and our kids and our grandchildren. When I opened my first health scan clinic in Surbiton in Surrey before going to Harley Street, I was about 5 miles away from the head office of Smith Kline Beecham in West London. That's what it was called in those days. Over the years, their health department sent me many members of staff to treat and cure. Funny old world, huh? Biggest drug company in the world, and they're sending me their management to sort out their health problems. The two biggest drug companies, as I say, in the world, in the UK anyway, in 2007, GlaxoSmithKline and Pfizer's, and again, they turn over about £30 billion each, and that's mostly from 10 billion pounds of it is from the NHS funds. 10 billion pounds. I reckon this technology at HealthScan could save the NHS probably 60–70% of its drug bill. So that's a lot of money. Yeah? A lot of money that could be going into better causes. Maybe we could employ better cleaners, and save a lot of lives that way too. The pharmaceutical industry has invested a fortune in making us sick. Do you remember that quote from Dr. Desmond Spence in my thought? The pharmaceutical industry has invested a fortune in making us sick and neurotic. Governments rely heavily on drug company funding at election time. Can this be in the best interest of us, the sick and the elderly? It's not just James Bond that's licensed to kill. Sir Liam Donaldson, Government Chief Medical Officer, publicly stated in his report to Parliament in 2001 that doctors' blunders killed 40,000 patients a year. Doctors' mistakes killed 40,000 patients a year. That's 109 a day, 109 people a day, or 1 every 15 minutes. They also injure 850,000 patients a year through other blunders. That's 2,500 people a day, or 16,000 people a week that are injured by doctors' blunders, mistakes. 160,000 are permanently injured each year. Now, if I killed or injured just one person, I would have a serious problem, but doctors can kill and maim in vast numbers every single day, and yet no questions are asked. Why is this allowed to go on? If there was a rail or a plane crash every day that killed hundreds of people, there would be a public outcry. So why not here also? Okay, we're going to leave it at that because we're running a little bit tight on time again. There's a lot of stuff here that needs to be talked about. And if any of you have any connections at all with television or radio around the world, and the bigger the station the better, then please do what you can. Talk to these people. Tell them to look at my website, tell them to look at my YouTube videos, the one you're looking at now, and all the others, and get me on these shows. Let's talk about this so the people out there that are suffering can see what's going on, and start changing the world and get the right treatment to the people for once, instead of wasting billions and billions of pounds a year on drugs that aren't working, and people becoming more and more unhealthy. Okay, that's the end of this video for time reasons. We're going to obviously continue on the next one. Look forward to seeing you then. All the very best now. Bye bye.